Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm looking at a new and very interesting mic from Maono. This is the PD200W, which is a USB-C and XLR microphone. But the more interesting part here is this has the option to connect to a USB-C wireless receiver. So you have three options for connection here, which makes this the most versatile microphone that I've tested on the channel. Now, I recently reviewed the Fifine K668 microphone, which was a dual input microphone. It had the USB-C and XLR connection options. So in this video, I wanted to compare the two as they are two of the more common brands that I see in the mid-tier and entry-level space for microphones. And these are somewhat comparable in terms of their features. Now, I'm going to be using both of these microphones throughout this video, and I'll have each portion labeled with the input type. For the XLR input, I'll be using the Fifine SC1 because that's the one I'm currently using on my second rig. With that being said, let's get into the specs, starting with the PD200W. So this is a dynamic cardioid microphone. For the connection options, you have USB-C to USB-A, which also has an adapter to it, so it could be USB-C to USB-C. You have the XLR input, and then the wireless 2.4 gigahertz connection. This is a 30 millimeter capsule. For the bit depth, it's 24 bit. The sample rate is 48 kilohertz. The frequency response is 50 hertz to 16 kilohertz. The signal to noise ratio is 82 decibels. The max sound pressure level is 128 decibels. And then for the sensitivity for the XLR, it is negative 53 decibel volts. And then for the USB, it is negative 7 decibels relative to full scale. For the impedance with the XLR, it is 580 ohms, plus or minus 30% at 1 kilohertz. And then this has a 2600 milliamp battery that can provide up to 60 hours of battery life if you leave the lights off. And then if you turn the RGB lighting on, it's roughly 38 hours. This does have A/B recording. This is a very interesting thing that this can do. You can connect two of these microphones to the wireless receiver. With that, though, you do need to have the application in order to make sure you turn this from the mono recording over to stereo so that you can isolate those two tracks in post. For the connection distance between the microphone and the receiver, it's 60 meters, which is almost 200 feet. It's like 196 feet. But they do note in the user manual that that's going to be with direct line of sight, and that's in their testing lab. So you're not dealing with any environmental issues, and there's no obstruction between the microphone and the wireless receiver. So if you're going to put walls or anything like that, you're immediately going to disrupt that signal, so that distance goes way down. But if you're in a decent sized room and you're recording a podcast or some music, you won't have to worry about this dropping signal or having any issues because it has a solid amount of connection distance. Even if you cut this in half, that's still roughly 100 feet of connection distance. And then this has noise cancellation. On PC, you have the AI noise cancellation. So when you go to choose your microphone, if you want the normal one, it will say the Maono microphone. And then if you want the AI one, it says Maono AI microphone. For the regular noise cancellation, you will get this option with the software, which I will cover in a little bit. And then you have three different settings. Strong is negative 28 decibels. Moderate is negative 20 decibels, and then slight is negative 13 decibels. And then the last two things here, the adjustable gain range is 0 to plus 36 decibels. That's the knob on the top that you can adjust when you're using this with the wireless or the USB-C connection. And then for the headphone jack, when you're going to monitor the audio, the impedance on that is 32 ohms. So that's the specs for the PD200W. Now let's shift over to the Fifine microphone. The K668 microphone is a dynamic cardioid microphone that uses a USB Type-C input or XLR input. For the USB power consumption, this has a voltage of 5 volts plus or minus 0.25 with a current of 86 milliamps. The bit depth here is 16 bits, and the sample rate is 44.1 to 48 kilohertz. The frequency response is 50 hertz to 15 kilohertz. The signal to noise ratio is less than 80 decibels. The max sound pressure level is 130 decibels. This has a sensitivity of negative 58 decibels, plus or minus 3 decibels, and this has an adjustable gain range of 0 to plus 12 decibels. Shifting over to the physical features, starting with the PD200W, this has a built-in pop filter slash windscreen, and it's suspended in a shock absorption cage that has the threaded adapter to mount this to the mic stand this comes with, or to any mic arm slash stand you may want to mount this to. On the bottom of the mic, you have the XLR, USB-C, and headphone jack inputs, as well as the power button, which doubles as the RGB light switch for the ring that is in the middle of the mic. And then in the middle section of the mic with that light ring, you have the mic gain knob, which works for the microphone gain, but also for the headset volume. So you have the double use there. The light ring that's around this will change color slightly to let you know when you switch between those two. And then above this, you have the mute button, which when you push the mute button, the ring light will actually flash in the middle of the microphone, and then the light around the gain and headset knob will actually flash, but then that will hold red while the other light just turns off. So you will have notification that you have pushed that mute button, and then you can see just by glancing down that it's either still on mute or you've switched it back. Inside of the box, you will get the mic, stand, pole with base, USB-C receiver, USB-A slash C to C adapter, and a USB-A slash C to C cable, which is 5 foot long, and then you get the user manual. I really like the two cables because they have on the end that USB-A to C adapter. So you're going to be covered based on what option is available to you with the device that you're using. That's not always the case. And if it isn't the case, you have to then go purchase a separate adapter. Here it's included. And then for the stand that this comes with, if the microphone is just set to straight, at the bottom position, it is 10.5 inches to the middle of the microphone. If you raise it to its highest position, it goes to 13.5 inches. But that's if the microphone is straight and not angled. If you angle it, you'll get even more height out of this. Next, let's shift over to the physical features of the K668. And then right after that, I'm going to cover the Maono software. For the physical features, this has a built-in pop filter that comes in gray or black. On the front of the mic, you have a touch-sensitive mute button that is illuminated and will be green when this is live and red when this is on mute. On the bottom of the mic, you will have the USB-C input, XLR input, headphone jack to monitor the audio, a volume dial for the headphone jack, and a gain dial to adjust this from 0 to plus 12 decibels. This comes with a built-in shock mount, and inside of the box you will get the mic with the shock mount, a USB-C to C cable where on one end it will have a USB adapter so you are covered, and the cable is 8.2 feet, which is great. You have a 5/8 male to 3/8 female threading adapter, and then the user manual. The microphone comes in black, white, and pink for the color options. So here we have the Maono Link software. With this, I'm using the wireless receiver for this, which is the top tab. And here we can see the battery life of the microphone. And I believe for this other tab, this would show up if we had two of the microphones connected to the one receiver. We're going to have the device. Home just brings us back so we can see the microphone that we're using. On the side here, we can see our gain levels if we needed to just keep an eye on whether or not they're peaking and you're getting some type of distortion. You can actually record from this and then export that file if you wanted to. And then for our tabs, we have basics, scenes, and lights. Here we have the gain and volume. You would actually see this adjusting if we adjusted the knob as well. So that kind of went up a little bit. Obviously, you heard it peak there for a second. And then we have the headphone volume. We have noise cancellation, slight. This is going to be moderate. And then we have the aggressive noise cancellation. I don't have any noise really in the room right now, so I'll just leave this on slight. Monitor output, the microphone and the computer. We could uncheck one of these if we wanted to. For the scenes, currently I have this on original. And now we have it on podcast. So you won't fully hear this click in until it actually does its configuration there. And you can adjust this, but you're going to have to create a new scene. So if you want to rename this and create your own scene based off of this kind of like preset, you can do that. And then that will allow you to adjust the reverb down here at the bottom. And then we have game, and you can see what they've adjusted here, which I really like that part. And then last, we're going to have sing, which sounds way different, obviously, but if you were going to sing with this, you can do that. We'll go back to original here. So now we're on original. And then we have the lights on the top, and you can adjust this however you want to. You can even create a custom color. I like when they have the color wheel. It's so much easier to choose from. I'm going to put this to fixed lighting too. So fixed, breathing, loop, or course. You could just turn this off if you wanted to, especially if you're running off that battery, so you can preserve that battery a little bit longer. So this has been the Maono Link software. So this was supposed to be a simple comparison video between these two mics, but the more I've used the PD200W, the more it's clear that these aren't even in the same league. I do want to make a note though before I continue with this part. If you're hearing any popping or anything like that, it's because I have a tendency to speak very softly. So I lean into the microphone just by default. And with this, although you do have the wind screen, if you're really, really close to the mic, it's not going to prevent the popping sound with this. So that's really more to do with me and not the microphone. The PD200W has quickly become one of my favorite mics that I've reviewed this year by far, and probably one of my favorite mics in terms of just all the features that this is packed with that I've used to date. Now, I normally use the Shure SM7B, which is still a great mic, but at 4 to 5 times the price, the PD200W feels way more versatile for the money. Now with the Fifine K668 specifically, I started to think the comparison here would seem a little unfair the more I got into the review process, because the PD200W is just so much better and the Fifine can't really compete. But looking at the price, it seems more reasonable because you can find these pretty close to the same price point. Now, looking at these price points, the PD200W normally runs about $130, but right now it's on sale for $90, and that's an insane deal for what you're getting here. The Fifine K668 costs around $73 right now, or $80 if you get the version with the mic arm, which you're gonna need that because this doesn't include a stand. Now, for the Fifine price, that is the normal price of the microphone. So, as we see Black Friday sales or just sales in general, that may go down some, and that's where you may have to make a different decision potentially, because then the gap isn't $10, it may be more. Or if the PD200W goes up to its normal price, then there's more to think about in regards to the price point. But right now, I would definitely just go with the PD200W because, again, for $10 more, you're getting just more features. You're getting the wireless connection option, which is a huge deal because I've not really seen any microphones like this with that option. But you're also getting these other features like the app that is just packed with customization options for your overall audio. Now, one of the biggest wins for me with this microphone is going to be the 3 different connection types: the USB, the XLR, and then the wireless. I've never used a wireless mic like this outside of a lavalier system, and this one actually sounds really good in terms of the connections. I labeled everything. I mentioned I was going to do that. If you just kind of go back through and look at XLR versus USB versus the wireless input, and I am tailoring the audio in the app so I can showcase some of that as well. All of it sounds really good. Plus, you can actually connect 2 of these to that one receiver. Like I mentioned earlier about, hey, you could run a podcast and you could split up the AB audio. Like, this just presents a lot of different options. You're not going to get that with the Fifine because it doesn't have the wireless receiver. You can't pair 2 of them to one receiver because it doesn't have that option. This just opens up a lot of room for different situations and use cases. The Fifine can't really match that. Now, my Sony FX30 doesn't support USB-C receivers, so if I was going to actually record a podcast, I was using two microphones, I would record that straight to my PC, and I'd use the Maono app in order to do that, and then I would sync everything in post. That's just one situation or scenario you could use this with. If I was a musician, this would be a great mic too, because I could go wireless if I was recording and I wanted to do it that way, or I could switch to the XLR input for studio sessions, or if I was going to do a live performance and then run that through an audio interface. If I was doing some streaming, I could simplify my setup with this. So I wouldn't actually use the XLR or USB input. I would actually just use the wireless receiver, because one of the things with streaming, typically you'll see somebody has their mic on a mic arm or maybe a stand in front of them or something top down, and it still can offer a decent range of positions, but it's not going to be able to move like this when you're using it wirelessly, because I can just move this wherever. I could even pick it up and kind of just use it as a handheld mic for a second if I wanted to. So I think in terms of simplifying your setup, it can do that, but it also enables more options in terms of position. And then you still get the Maono app, so you can customize any of the EQ settings within that and tailor the audio to your liking, as well as using the noise cancellation. Now, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, do keep in mind you have NVIDIA Broadcast, that is free software, and you do get really good noise cancellation features with that. But this may offer customization for your voice and the audio recordings that the NVIDIA Broadcast doesn't. So here for streamers, you can go wireless. So no cable clutter. You can reduce the overall size of the mic arm and the amount of space that that takes up. And this thing has plenty of battery life for longer streaming sessions. Now, outside of those different scenarios, in terms of the receiver, any USB-C device is going to work with this like a phone or a tablet. So if you're a TikTok creator or you do street interviews or kind of like those pop-up desk videos where they're just interviewing people that go by, like this is going to work with your phones or, like I said, any USB-C device for those as well. Outside of that, you have the Maono software, which Fifine doesn't have any software, and the software is really good. You're getting the different scene presets, the customization to the EQ settings for the audio, you're getting the noise cancellation, and then the customization over the lights. There's a lot that you can do with this. I think it's really solid software, and it not only works on PC, but it also works with your phone. The only thing that you're going to lose when using it with your phone on the app there is the ability to adjust the EQ settings, and you don't get the option for the reverb. So to summarize the differences and do a quick comparison recap, for connectivity, both of these have USB and XLR, but only the Maono has the wireless receiver. For mounting, Maono includes a stand, Fifine doesn't. For software, Fifine doesn't have any software. Maono offers the software with full EQ and audio customization and the noise cancellation. For the design, both look similar, but Maono's top-mounted gain knob is easier to use for adjusting not only gain for the microphone, but also the headset volume. For the audio, both sound good. I think with Maono offering the customization in the app and the noise cancellation, it does give it the edge because you can customize all of that with their own app. But if you do use Premiere Pro, there's certain things that you can do in Premiere Pro to Fifine's audio to clean it up. Or if you're using the NVIDIA Broadcast, you have options there as well. But as an all-inclusive system, I do think Maono is just the better package. For power, the Fifine microphone needs phantom power for the XLR, but Maono's doesn't. I think the Maono gets the edge there. For the cable here, Fifine actually has a slightly longer cable. I think it's 8 feet compared to the 5 with this one. I think that does matter. It just makes it easier when you're trying to set this up. A little bit more cable is better than having a cable that's too short. And then one last difference is the Fifine microphone comes in different color options where this one does not. You can only get the black microphone, where Maono has black, white, pink, and if that fits your overall setup aesthetics better, that may be the better option potentially for you. So if you're deciding between these two and the PD200W is still on sale, I say spend the extra $10 and get all of the extra features that this microphone offers over the Fifine K668. You won't regret it. Now, I said this earlier, but I do think it bears repeating. This is one of my favorite microphones I've ever reviewed here on the channel. With a lot of these, I have my Shure SM7B, so I review the microphone and then I just sell it because I don't need a bunch of microphones. But this is one of those rare instances where I'm going to keep this microphone. This is going to be a great backup mic where I don't want to use the Shure SM7B. This has more versatility than the Shure SM7B, so there's certain situations where it's going to be the better option for me over that microphone. So that's going to wrap this video up. Let me know what you think of the PD200W, the audio quality, the different features that this offers, especially in comparison to the Fifine K668, but also compared to other microphones that are out on the market. I'm going to have a link for this in the description if you want to pick it up, as well as the K668. Definitely check back for those sales on either microphone. If you have any questions on this that I didn't answer in this video, let me know in the comment section. I will make sure to answer that for you there. If you like the video, hit the like button for me as it helps the channel out. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.